Welcome to our channel. Enjoy our story and don't forget to subscribe.
Dr. Lindsay Chen's hands stopped moving across my belly, just stopped. The ultrasound wand froze mid-swipe, and I watched her face drain of color in the dim blue light of the monitor. It wasn't a gradual change. It was instant, like someone had flipped a switch inside her. 1 second, she was humming softly, professionally detached, doing what she'd probably done 10,000 times before. The next second, her jaw went slack and her eyes went wide, and she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the screen like she'd seen something unholy. "Is everything okay?" My voice came out smaller than I intended, thin and reedy in the quiet room. She didn't answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. She glanced at me, then back at the screen, then at me again, and I watched her face cycle through a dozen emotions I couldn't name. Fear, anger, something that looked almost like grief. Then she jabbed the button on the wall intercom with her elbow. Her hands were shaking too badly to use her fingers, and said one word, "Nora." Not, "Can you come here?" or "I need assistance." Just that one word, sharp and urgent, and then she angled the monitor away from me. Actually, physically turned it so I couldn't see what she was seeing. That's when my heart started hammering. That's when the cold fear started seeping into my chest, spreading through my ribs like ice water. "Dr. Chen, don't move." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Just stay still, please." A nurse appeared in the doorway within seconds, a petite black woman whose name tag said Nora Williams, RN. She must have been right outside. Dr. Chen whispered something to her, holding one hand up to shield her mouth like she was telling secrets in a middle school cafeteria. I couldn't hear the words, but I watched Nora's eyes go wide, watched her hand fly up to her mouth, watched her look at me, really look at me, with something that made my stomach turn over. Pity. She was looking at me with pity. Nora nodded once, quick and sharp, and disappeared. Dr. Chen turned back to me, and I could see her trying to compose herself, trying to smooth her face back into something professional. She wasn't succeeding. "Dr. Chen, you're scaring me." I tried to sit up, but she put a firm hand on my shoulder. Her palm was hot against my skin, or maybe I was just cold. Everything felt cold suddenly. "Mrs. Castellano." She took a breath, steadied herself. "I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. Can you do that?" I nodded, even though I wanted to scream, even though I wanted to rip that monitor around and see what she was seeing, understand what had made her face do that terrible thing. "When you leave this room, your husband is going to ask how everything went. He's going to ask if the baby's healthy, if everything looks good." Her voice had gone quiet, urgent, like she was telling me how to escape a burning building. "You're going to smile. You're going to tell him. Everything is perfect. You're going to let him drive you home. And then," she swallowed hard, "and then you're going to pack a bag and leave. Tonight. Today if you can." The room tilted. The walls seemed to lean inward. "What?" "You need to file for divorce. Today. Tomorrow at the latest." She was pulling the ultrasound wand away now, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. She grabbed a handful of paper towels and started wiping the gel off my stomach, but her hands were shaking so badly she kept missing spots. "And you cannot tell him why. Do you understand me? You cannot tell him you know. Not yet. Not until you're somewhere safe." "Know what?" My voice cracked. "What's happening? Is something wrong with the baby? Is it—" "Look." She turned the monitor toward me with shaking hands. What I saw on that screen made my blood go cold. Not because it was horrifying, not because there was something wrong with the image itself, because it was impossible. The image showed a perfectly healthy fetus, I could see it clearly even though I'd never seen an ultrasound before. The curved spine, the round head, the tiny limbs moving in that otherworldly way that had made my chest ache with longing every time I'd seen pregnancy announcement photos on social media, 18 weeks along according to my dates, almost halfway there, almost to the point where I could find out if I was having a boy or a girl, start picking out names, painting the nursery. But there, in the lower corner of the screen, was a notation I could read even through my shock, even through the way my vision was starting to tunnel. Patient-eyed Castellano Sofia. Date of conception, EST, March 15th. March 15th. I'd been in London the entire month of March, alone, at a conference for international estate law that had run for 3.5 weeks, from the 3rd through the 28th. I'd stayed in a hotel near Heathrow, sat through 14-hour days of presentations on offshore trusts and international probate law, eaten room service most nights because I was too exhausted to go out. My husband Marcus knew that. He'd driven me to the airport himself, helped me check my bags, kissed me goodbye at security, and told me how much he'd miss me. He'd texted me every day I was gone. He'd sent me pictures of our cat. He'd video called me twice a week, his face filling my phone screen while he sat in our kitchen back home in Connecticut, 7 hours behind London time, telling me about his day. "That's not possible," I whispered. The words felt thick in my mouth, like my tongue didn't want to form them. I wasn't even in the country. I was in London. He knows I was in London. He drove me to the airport. Exactly. Dr. Chen's voice was steel now, sharp enough to cut. "Mrs. Castellano, this isn't your ultrasound. But someone wanted you to believe it was. Someone very carefully scheduled you in this room, in this specific time slot, knowing exactly what would be on this machine when I turned it on." The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Everything except her face went fuzzy and distant. Marcus. She didn't confirm it. She didn't have to. I could see it in her eyes. "I can't tell you more than this." She was choosing her words carefully now, every syllable deliberate. Patient confidentiality. There are laws, regulations, but I recognized his name when you checked in today. I recognized it because... She stopped herself, professional boundaries slamming back into place like a steel door. "There are things I legally cannot say, but you're a smart woman. You'll figure it out." I was already figuring it out. The pieces were clicking together with sickening clarity, like puzzle pieces I'd been holding for months without realizing they all fit together. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, 24 months of carefully timed intercourse, of tracking ovulation, of pregnancy tests that stayed stubbornly negative month after month. 24 months of doctors saying there was no medical reason it wasn't happening, that we were both healthy, that sometimes it just takes time. 24 months of Marcus being so patient about it, so understanding, so supportive. He'd hold me when I cried over negative tests. He'd tell me we had all the time in the world. He'd remind me that we were still young, that there was no rush, that when it happened, it would happen. But 6 months ago, something had changed. He'd started seeming anxious about it, started suggesting we see specialists, started doing research, printing out articles about fertility treatments, leaving them on the kitchen counter where I'd see them. And then he'd found Dr. Patricia Morrison, a fertility specialist with an office in Hartford, his choice of doctor. He'd made the appointment himself, insisted on coming with me. I'd thought it was sweet. I'd thought it showed how committed he was, how much he wanted this too. He'd come to every single appointment, his hand always on my back, guiding me through the waiting room, his voice always there, answering questions before I could, filling out forms, scheduling follow-ups. He'd even started talking to Dr. Morrison alone sometimes, pulling her aside for quick questions while I got dressed after examinations. I'd thought he was being protective, involved, a good husband, and then 3 months ago, he'd brought up estate planning. We'd been married for 5 years at that point, and he'd never shown any interest in my family money before. But suddenly he was suggesting we update our wills, make sure everything was in order before we had a baby. It made sense. It seemed responsible. His suggestion that we set up a joint trust, his gentle pressure to add him as co-owner on my grandmother's trust fund, the one she'd left me when she died 7 years ago, the one worth just over $3 million that was supposed to see me through the rest of my life, the one that had sat untouched in an account at Morgan Stanley, quietly growing while I lived off my salary from the law firm. He'd made it sound so reasonable, so practical. "If something happens to you during childbirth," he'd said, holding my hands across our kitchen table, his eyes warm and concerned, "I need to be able to access funds immediately. For the baby, for medical bills. I don't want to have to wait for probate while our child needs things." I'd signed the papers last month. I'd walked into my estate attorney's office and signed my name on line after line, transferring ownership, creating joint accounts, making Marcus Castellano my equal partner in everything I'd inherited. I was going to be sick. "How long have you known?" I asked quietly. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. Dr. Chen looked at me for a long moment. I watched her weighing what she could say, what she couldn't, what she should. Finally, she sighed. "I did his wife's ultrasound 4 years ago. His first wife. Real ultrasound. She was actually pregnant." She handed me a tissue I didn't realize I needed until I felt the wetness on my cheeks. She came to see me a year after her divorce, alone, devastated. She wanted to understand what had happened to her, where it had all gone wrong, and she told me everything. What did he do to her? The same thing he's doing to you, I imagine. Dr. Chen's expression softened, and somehow that was worse than if she'd been angry. The sympathy in her eyes made it real in a way nothing else had. "But you have something she didn't. You have proof. You have this moment. You have the fact that you saw this with your own eyes, that I showed you, that there's a record." She reached over to the ultrasound machine and did something I couldn't quite see. There was a soft beep, and then she was ejecting something from a port I hadn't noticed, a USB drive, the little blue kind that costs $3 at Target. "This recording is part of your medical record now," she said, pressing it into my palm. It was warm from the machine. "It's evidence. The timestamp, the patient ID, everything. It's all there. Keep it somewhere safe. Somewhere he won't find it." Nora appeared in the doorway again. She was holding a large manila envelope and a business card. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. Her face had gone hard and determined, and I realized I was looking at someone who'd made a decision. "My sister's a divorce attorney," she said, kneeling down next to the examination table so she could look me in the eye. "Rachel Williams. She specializes in fraud cases, marital fraud, financial fraud, identity fraud. She's seen this kind of thing before." She pressed the envelope and business card into my hands, folding my fingers around them. "Her office is 3 blocks from here. I called her while you were in here. She's clearing her afternoon. She's expecting your call." I stared at the envelope, at the business card with its embossed lettering, at these 2 women who were trying to save me from something I was only beginning to understand, something that was still unfolding in my mind like a poisonous flower. "There's more in there," Nora said quietly, nodding at the envelope. "Contact information, resources, the name and number of a private investigator Rachel works with, a shelter if you need one, though I'm guessing you don't, the number for a locksmith who can rekey your house in under an hour, everything you might need to move fast." "Your husband is in the waiting room," Dr. Chen said. She'd stood up, was putting distance between us now, trying to re-establish the professional boundary she'd just demolished. "He's going to ask you what you saw. He's going to ask if everything's okay with the baby. You're going to lie. Can you do that?" Could I? I thought of Marcus out there, sitting in that cheerful waiting room with its outdated magazines and plastic plants, its cheerful mural of pregnant women and smiling babies. He was probably checking his phone, probably scrolling through news headlines or sports scores, probably completely calm because he thought this was going exactly according to plan. He was probably smiling that warm, open smile that had made me fall in love with him 6 years ago, back when I'd met him at a bar near my office where I'd gone for drinks with colleagues. That smile that had made me trust him completely, immediately, in a way I'd never trusted anyone before. That smile that had made me ignore my mother when she'd pulled me aside 2 months into our relationship and said there was something off about him. My mother. God. She'd tried to tell me. I could see it so clearly now, that Thanksgiving dinner 2 years ago, right after Marcus and I had gotten engaged. We'd driven up to her house in Vermont, the big old colonial where I'd grown up, where she still lived alone after my father's death. Marcus had been charming all through dinner, complimenting her, cooking, asking her about her garden, making her laugh. I'd been so proud. Look, Mom, I'd thought, look how wrong you were about him. And then after dinner, while Marcus was outside smoking, he'd picked up the habit 6 months earlier, which should have been a sign. He'd always hated cigarettes. My mother had pulled me aside in her kitchen. "Sweetheart," she'd said, drying her hands on a dish towel, not looking at me, "I know you love him, I can see that, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to have your lawyer look into him. Just a background check, just to make sure." I'd gone cold. Make sure of what? I don't know. Maybe nothing. But there's something about him that doesn't sit right with me. The way he's always touching you, the way he answers questions for you, the way he... She'd struggled for words. It's like he's managing you, like you're a project he's working on. I'd been furious. The anger had risen in me so fast and so hot that I'd actually stepped away from her, putting physical distance between us. "You're being paranoid." "I'm being careful. There's a difference. You're judging him because he doesn't come from money, because his family isn't like ours, because he's not some trust fund kid from Yale. That has nothing to do with... It has everything to do with it." I'd been shaking. "You've been like this about every man I've dated. You've always found something wrong. And now that I've finally found someone who loves me, someone who wants to build a life with me, you can't just be happy for me. Sophia, please. I'm 32 years old, Mom. I don't need your permission. I don't need your approval." I'd pulled off my apron. I'd been helping with dishes and thrown it on the counter. "And I definitely don't need you investigating the man I'm going to marry like he's some kind of criminal. I'm not saying he's a criminal. I'm just asking you to be careful." Well, I'm done being careful. I'm done being alone. Because I'm too careful. I'm done letting you run my life. We hadn't spoken since. 18 months of silence. 18 months of her leaving voicemails I didn't return, sending emails I deleted without reading. 18 months of Marcus telling me how sorry he was that my mother couldn't accept our relationship, how hard it must be for me, how lucky we were to have each other. God, how stupid I'd been, how incredibly, devastatingly stupid. "I can lie," I said. My voice sounded strange, hollow. Dr. Chen squeezed my hand once, quick and firm. "There's a back exit through the staff corridor. I could take you out that way. He'd never know." "No." I was surprised by how steady I sounded. "No, I need to go out the front. I need to act normal." Because if I ran now, he'd know something was wrong. He'd know I'd figured it out. And whatever he'd been planning, whatever endgame he'd been working toward with those fertility appointments and that trust fund and this impossible ultrasound, he'd accelerate it. He'd make his move before I was ready. I needed time. Time to understand. Time to prepare. Time to make sure that when I struck back, it would be final. "Can you do that?" Dr. Chen asked, studying my face. I nodded and slid off the examination table. My legs felt like water, but they held me. I pulled my shirt down, grabbed my purse, tucked the USB drive and envelope deep inside where they wouldn't be visible. One more thing. Dr. Chen's voice stopped me at the door. When I turned back, she looked older than she had when I'd first walked in. Tired. Sad. His first wife? Her name is Amanda Castellano. She kept his name just to make sure other women could find her if they Googled him. Smart woman. She's been documenting everything, every move he makes, every woman he targets, every piece of his pattern. She met my eyes. She lives in Boston now. I can't give you her number. Patient confidentiality. But I can tell you she's on LinkedIn. She's waiting for someone to reach out. She's been waiting for 4 years for someone to believe her. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. Just promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't confront him until you're safe. I promised, even though I didn't know yet what safe meant, even though I didn't know what I was going to do when I walked out that door. The walk down that corridor to the waiting room was the longest of my life. My heels clicked on the linoleum floor. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. I passed a pregnant woman going the other direction, her hand on her belly, her face glowing with that particular joy that only comes from carrying life inside you. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to grab her arm and ask her if she was sure, if she was certain the baby was hers, that her husband was who she thought he was, that everything in her life was real. But I kept walking. I could see Marcus through the glass door, exactly where I'd left him almost an hour earlier. He was in the same chair, scrolling through his phone. He'd dressed nicely for this appointment, khakis and a button-down shirt, like he was going to church or meeting my lawyer. He looked up as I approached, and I watched his whole face transform. Watched that smile spread across his features like sunrise, that perfect, practiced, poisonous smile. He stood. There's my girl. How's our little one doing? Our little one. The baby that didn't exist. The baby that had never existed. The baby he'd been using to manipulate me for months. I smiled back. I smiled like my world hadn't just shattered, like I hadn't just discovered that everything, my marriage, my trust, my entire life for the past 5 years, was built on lies. Perfect, I said, and I was surprised by how normal I sounded, how light, how happy. Everything's perfect. She said everything looks great. He pulled me into a hug, and I let him. I wrapped my arms around him and pressed my face into his shoulder, and breathed in the smell of his cologne, the expensive kind I'd bought him for Christmas, with money from my trust fund, and I felt the USB drive pressing against my ribs where I'd tucked it into my bra, felt the envelope in my purse, felt the weight of what I now knew. I knew it would be, he murmured into my hair. His lips brushed against my temple. I just knew we'd make the perfect family. Over his shoulder, through the window behind him, I could see Dr. Chen watching from the hallway. She gave me the smallest nod, a nod that said, "You can do this. You're strong enough for this. Don't let him see." "Should we go celebrate?" Marcus asked, pulling back to look at me. "Maybe grab lunch somewhere nice? You must be starving." "Actually," I said, "I'm exhausted. Would you mind if we just went home? I think I need to lie down for a bit." "Of course." He cupped my face in his hands. His thumb stroked my cheek. "Whatever you need. You're eating for 2 now." No, I wasn't. But he didn't know that I knew that. "Let's go home," I said. He took my hand and led me out to the parking lot to his car, the Audi sedan I'd co-signed the loan for last year, using my credit score, my income, my grandmother's trust fund as collateral. He opened the passenger door for me like a gentleman, waited until I was settled before closing it gently. I watched him walk around the front of the car, watched him check his phone one more time before sliding into the driver's seat, watched him smile at me again as he started the engine. "I love you," he said. "I love you too," I lied. And as he pulled out of the parking lot, as he drove us toward our house, the house we'd bought together 2 years ago, the house where I'd been so happy, so stupidly, blindly happy, I began to plan. I had maybe 48 hours before Marcus realized something was wrong. 48 hours before his careful scheme started to unravel. 48 hours to become someone I'd never been before. Someone who could fight back. Someone who could win. The house looked different when we pulled into the driveway. It was the same colonial I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. White clapboard siding, black shutters. The red front door I'd insisted on because it reminded me of my childhood home in Vermont. But now I saw it through different eyes. Now I wondered how much of choosing this house had been my idea and how much had been Marcus gently steering me, the way he'd steered everything else. "You okay?" Marcus asked, turning off the engine. "You've been quiet." "Just tired." I manufactured a smile. The appointment took longer than I thought. "Well, you should rest. I'll make you some lunch." He came around to open my door, ever the gentleman. His hand found the small of my back as we walked to the front door. A gesture I'd always found comforting. Now it felt like a leash. Inside, our cat Fitzgerald wound around my ankles, meowing. I'd named him after my favorite author. Marcus had thought it was pretentious, but hadn't said so directly. Just made little jokes about it until I'd started feeling self-conscious every time I introduced the cat to someone new. How many times had he done that? How many tiny cuts had he made that I'd dismissed as teasing? "Why don't you go lie down?" Marcus said, already moving toward the kitchen. "I'll bring you a sandwich." "Actually, I think I'll take a bath first. My back is killing me." "Perfect. I'll bring lunch up to you." I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, each step feeling surreal. The family photos on the wall, our wedding, vacations, holiday cards, suddenly looked like evidence in a case I was building against my own life. I locked the bathroom door behind me, turned on the faucet to cover any sound, and pulled out my phone. Rachel Williams answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Castellano, my sister called me. I've cleared my afternoon." Her voice was crisp, professional, but not cold. "How much does he know?" "Nothing. He thinks everything went fine." "Good. That's good. We have time." I heard the sound of papers shuffling. "I need you to listen carefully. Do not, under any circumstances, confront him. Do not let on that you know anything. Can you do that?" "I already am." "How are you holding up?" The question caught me off guard. The kindness in it. I had to press my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. "Mrs. Castellano." "I'm here," I managed. "I'm okay." "No, you're not. And that's normal. What you're experiencing right now is shock. It's going to wear off probably in the next few hours, and when it does, you're going to feel a lot of things. Rage, grief, maybe even doubt. You're going to want to believe you misunderstood. That's normal too. But I need you to trust what you saw today." "There was another woman," I whispered. "His first wife, Amanda." A pause. "You know about Amanda?" "The doctor told me. She said Amanda's been documenting everything. That she's been waiting for someone to believe her." "She has, and she will testify if it comes to that. But right now, I need you to focus on protecting yourself. Do you have access to your financial accounts? Can you check them without him knowing?" I thought about our shared laptop in the study downstairs, about the way Marcus always seemed to be nearby when I was on it, looking over my shoulder, asking what I was working on. "I have my work laptop. He doesn't use it." "Good. I need you to check every account. Bank accounts, investment accounts, credit cards, everything. Take screenshots. Download statements. Look for withdrawals, transfers, anything unusual. Can you do that today?" "He'll be home all afternoon." "Then tonight, after he's asleep. Or tomorrow when he goes to work. But soon. We need to know what we're dealing with." "What am I dealing with?" My voice cracked. What is this? What was he trying to do? Rachel was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentler. I can't say for certain without seeing all the evidence, but based on what Nora told me, based on the ultrasound, based on the pattern, I think he's been setting up what we call reproductive coercion combined with financial fraud. The fake pregnancy, the pressure to combine finances, the timing of the trust fund changes. He's been building toward something. Toward what? My guess? He was going to stage a miscarriage, something traumatic, something that would require medical intervention, hospital bills, maybe even a surgery. And while you were devastated and vulnerable, he'd have access to everything. He could drain the accounts, take out loans in your name, disappear before you even realized what happened. The bathwater was getting too hot. I could feel it scalding my hand, but I couldn't move, couldn't process what she was saying. Or, Rachel continued, he might have been planning something even longer term. Stay married, keep the pregnancy fiction going. As long as possible, establish himself as the grieving father-to-be. Isolate you from your support system. Then one day, you have an accident. He's the devastated widower who inherits everything. You're saying he might have been planning to kill me. I'm saying we don't know what he was planning. But men like this, men who construct elaborate deceptions like this, they don't stop at financial fraud. This is pathological. This is someone who sees you as a means to an end. I was going to throw up. I leaned over the toilet, my whole body shaking. Mrs. Castellano, Sophia, I need you to breathe. Can you do that for me? I breathed. In and out, in and out. I'm going to give you a list of things to do. Are you ready? I wasn't, but I said yes anyway. First, check those financial accounts tonight. Second, I need you to gather important documents: birth certificate, social security card, passport, any deeds or titles, insurance policies. Put them somewhere he can't find them. A safe deposit box would be best, but if you can't get to a bank without raising suspicion, leave them with a trusted friend. Do you have someone you trust? Someone he doesn't control? I thought of my mother. 18 months of silence. 18 months of her being right about everything while I'd been too proud and too stupid to listen. My mother, I whispered. Perfect. Can you get to Vermont without him knowing? He works during the day. I could drive up tomorrow. Do it. Bring the documents. Bring the USB drive Dr. Chen gave you. Tell your mother everything. And Sophia? Ask her if she'll come back with you. You're going to need someone in your corner when this gets ugly. When, not if. Third, Rachel continued, I'm going to email you a client intake form. I need you to fill it out in detail. Everything about your marriage, your finances, his behavior, the timeline of events, everything you can remember. But do it on your work laptop and delete the email after you've downloaded the form. Don't save it anywhere he could find it. Okay? Fourth, and this is important, act normal. I know that seems impossible right now, but you have to try. Go through your regular routines. Be the wife he expects you to be. Don't give him any reason to suspect, you know. For how long? As long as it takes to build an airtight case. A week, maybe 2. We need to document everything, gather all the evidence, talk to Amanda, understand the full scope of what he's done. And then we strike. Something in her voice made me sit up straighter. What do you mean, strike? I mean, we don't just divorce him quietly. We destroy him. We make sure he never does this to anyone else. We go to the police with evidence of fraud. We contact the medical board about the fertility doctor he's been working with. And believe me, there's a fertility doctor involved in this, someone who's been faking test results and appointments. We expose him publicly. We make him pay. Can we do that? Can we really make him pay? Sophia, your husband committed multiple felonies. He falsified medical records. He engaged in financial fraud. He may have even committed identity theft if he forged your signature on anything. By the time we're done documenting all of it, he'll be facing criminal charges and civil suits. He'll lose everything, and he'll deserve it. I thought about the trust fund papers I'd signed last month, about Marcus sitting across from me at our kitchen table, his hand covering mine, his voice so gentle and reasonable. Had I read every page before I signed, or had I trusted him to tell me what they said? "I need to go," I said. "He'll wonder what I'm doing up here. Call me tomorrow after you've checked the accounts. And Sophia, you're doing the right thing. You're stronger than you know." I hung up and stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. My face was pale, my eyes red. I looked like someone who'd just received devastating news. I looked like someone whose world had ended. I splashed cold water on my face until the redness faded. I practiced smiling until it looked natural. I took several deep breaths and tried to steady my hands. Then I went downstairs to eat lunch with my husband. Marcus had made chicken salad sandwiches, my favorite, and set them out on the good plates, the ones we usually saved for company. He'd even poured me a glass of sparkling water with lemon, the way I liked it. "Feeling better?" he asked as I sat down. "Much better. Thank you for this." We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, or what would have looked like comfortable silence to anyone watching. Inside, I was screaming. "So the doctor said everything looks good?" Marcus asked, his tone casual. Too casual. "Perfect. She said the baby is developing right on schedule." "Did she say when we could find out the gender?" The lie came easier than I expected. "In a few more weeks, at the 20-week ultrasound." "I can't wait." Reached across the table and took my hand. His palm was warm. His smile was genuine. Or it looked genuine. I couldn't tell anymore. "I've been thinking we should start on the nursery soon. Get ahead of things." "That's a good idea." And I was thinking, we should probably update our life insurance policies too, now that we're going to have a baby, just to make sure everything's covered. There it was. Another piece of the puzzle clicking into place. "We just updated our wills," I said carefully. "I know, but life insurance is different. And with a baby on the way, with you potentially taking time off work, we should make sure I'd be taken care of if something happened to you." He squeezed my hand. "I know it's morbid to think about, but we have to be practical." He wanted me to take out more life insurance, with him as the beneficiary. Of course he did. "You're right," I said. "We should be practical." His smile widened. "I'll look into policies tomorrow, get us some quotes." I excused myself after lunch, claiming I needed to rest. Marcus kissed my forehead and told me to sleep as long as I needed. I went upstairs, climbed into our bed, the bed we'd shared for 5 years, where I'd felt safe and loved and cherished, and I waited. I waited until I heard him go into his office downstairs. Waited until I heard the familiar sound of him settling in for an afternoon of work. He did something with investment consulting, or at least that's what he'd told me. I'd never asked many questions. He'd always been vague about the details, and I'd respected his privacy. How convenient for him. I pulled out my work laptop and logged into my bank accounts. The personal checking account Marcus and I shared looked normal at first glance, but when I started going through the statements, I saw them. Small withdrawals. $200 here, $500 there. Never enough to be alarming on their own, but over the past 6 months, they added up to almost $15,000. The savings account we'd opened together when we got married, the one we were supposed to be building up for our future, for a house down payment for emergencies, had a balance of $1,100. It should have had $40,000. My personal investment account, the one I'd had since before we met, showed a transfer out 2 weeks ago. $50,000, moved to a joint account I didn't remember opening, and my grandmother's trust fund, the one I'd signed over to joint ownership last month, showed activity I definitely hadn't authorized. Someone had been moving money, small amounts at first, but getting larger. The most recent transfer, dated 3 days ago, was for $200,000. I took screenshots of everything, downloaded PDFs of every statement. My hands were shaking so badly I kept missing the buttons. Then I logged into my credit report. I had to know. 3 credit cards I'd never opened. Maxed out. Total balance, $78,000. A car loan for a vehicle I'd never seen. Outstanding balance, $42,000. A personal line of credit, $50,000 drawn. My credit score had dropped from 790 to 538. He'd been destroying me financially for months, maybe longer. And I'd never noticed because I'd trusted him to handle our bills, to manage our finances, to take care of the boring details while I focused on my career. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. When I could breathe again, I washed my face and looked at myself in the mirror. This was who I was now. Someone whose husband had systematically dismantled her life while she smiled and thanked him for making lunch. I heard Marcus coming up the stairs. I closed my laptop, shoved it under a pillow, and climbed back into bed. He knocked softly before entering. "Hey, just checking on you. You okay?" "Just pregnancy nausea," I lied. It hit me, all at once. Poor thing. He sat on the edge of the bed, his hand cool against my forehead. "Can I get you anything? Crackers? Ginger ale?" "No, I just need to sleep." "Okay." He leaned down and kissed my temple. "I'll be quiet downstairs. Call if you need me." After he left, I lay there in the gathering darkness and tried to understand how I'd gotten here, how I'd married a man who was capable of this, how I'd been so blind. I thought about the woman on that ultrasound screen. Sofia Castellano, it had said. Patient ID. But it wasn't me. It was someone else. Another woman Marcus had found, another woman he was manipulating, another victim in whatever sick game he was playing. Or maybe it was Amanda. Maybe he'd saved her ultrasound from 4 years ago, kept it in some file, planning to use it again, planning to recycle his con. I had to talk to her. I had to know what she knew. I waited until after midnight, until I heard Marcus's snoring from his side of the bed. Then I crept into the bathroom with my phone and searched LinkedIn for Amanda Castellano in Boston. I found her immediately. She'd made herself easy to find, just like Dr. Chen had said. Her profile photo showed a woman about my age, with dark hair and tired eyes. Her bio was simple. Marketing director, advocate for women's rights, survivor. I sent her a message. "My name is Sofia Castellano. I was married to Marcus 3 years after you. I just found out. Please call me." I included my number and pressed send before I could second-guess myself. I didn't expect her to respond right away. It was after midnight. She was probably asleep. My phone rang 45 seconds later. I nearly dropped it in my panic to answer quietly, to not wake Marcus. "Sophia?" Her voice was low, urgent. "Is it really you?" "Yes." Oh my God, I've been waiting. I've been watching. I saw the marriage announcement in the paper and I wanted to warn you, but I didn't know how. I didn't think you'd believe me." "I believe you." My voice cracked. "I saw the ultrasound today, the one with your name on it." A sharp intake of breath. He's still using that? Jesus. I had that ultrasound in March of 2019. Our baby, our real baby, I miscarried at 20 weeks. It destroyed me. And 6 months later, I found out the whole pregnancy had been part of his plan all along. "What do you mean?" He'd been replacing my birth control pills with placebos. I found the real pills hidden in his gym bag. He wanted me pregnant so I'd be vulnerable, so I'd agree to put him on my accounts, so I'd change my will. And when I lost the baby, her voice broke. He was disappointed, not sad. Disappointed, like I'd ruined his investment strategy. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. "I left him the next day," Amanda continued. took everything I could carry and moved to Boston. But he'd already done so much damage. He'd taken out credit cards in my name, forged my signature on loan documents, emptied my savings. I spent 2 years in court getting it all cleaned up. And even then, some of it I couldn't prove. Some of it I just had to eat. Did you go to the police? I tried. But he's smart, Sophia. He's so fucking smart. He'd covered his tracks. Half the things he did, he'd gotten me to sign off on without me realizing what I was signing. And the things he forged, he's good at it. Good enough that I couldn't prove it in court. My lawyer said it would be my word against his, and that wasn't enough for criminal charges. So he just got away with it? He got away with it because I was alone, because I had no witnesses, no documentation, no proof that would hold up in court. Her voice hardened. But you're not alone. You have me. You have evidence. You have that ultrasound with my information on it, which proves he's been planning this for years. You have a pattern now. 2 victims. That's enough to build a case. There's more, I said. He's destroyed my credit, stolen from my trust fund, set up fake accounts, life insurance. He's been planning. I couldn't say it, couldn't speak the words out loud. I know what he's been planning. Amanda's voice was quiet now, sad. I figured it out about a year after I left him. The life insurance policies he'd pushed me to increase. The way he kept suggesting I drive his car instead of mine. The one with the faulty brakes he'd never quite gotten around to fixing. The way he'd started bringing me food and drinks I didn't ask for, things that made me sick. I think he was poisoning me, Sophia, slowly, carefully. And if I'd stayed, I think he would have killed me and made it look like an accident. The room was spinning. I slid down the bathroom wall until I was sitting on the cold tile floor. You need to leave, Amanda said urgently. Tonight, right now, get out of that house. I can't, not yet. I need to gather evidence. My lawyer said, fuck the evidence, your life is more than evidence. What if he figures out you know? What if he accelerates his timeline? He won't. He thinks everything's going according to plan. He thinks I'm pregnant and vulnerable and completely under his control. That's what I thought too. Amanda's voice was sharp with fear. Right up until the night he put something in my tea and I woke up 12 hours later with no memory of anything. The doctor said it was probably Rohypnol. I never proved it, but I know it was him. I know he was testing how easy it would be. My blood went cold. I thought about all the times Marcus had made me drinks, all the times I'd felt unusually tired after dinner, all the times I'd woken up groggy and confused, unable to remember going to bed. I'm going to my mother's tomorrow, I whispered. I'm going to get the documents somewhere safe. Good, that's good. And after that, you need to set a deadline. 1 week, maybe 2. Get your evidence, build your case, and then get out. Promise me. I promise. And Sophia, when you're ready to move, when you're ready to expose him, I'll be there. I'll testify. I'll tell everyone what he did to me. We'll make sure he never does this to anyone else. After we hung up, I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time. I thought about Amanda, alone in Boston, waiting 4 years for someone to believe her. I thought about the baby she'd lost, the real baby, not the fake one Marcus had tried to use against me. I thought about all the other women there might have been before her, women who'd never come forward, women who'd taken their secrets to their graves. And I thought about Marcus, sleeping peacefully in our bed, dreaming whatever monsters dream about. I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to be another Amanda, another woman he'd destroyed and discarded. I was going to fight back. But first, I had to survive long enough to make my move. I crept back to bed and lay there in the darkness, listening to him breathe, planning, calculating, becoming someone new, someone dangerous, someone who could beat him at his own game. It took me 3 days to build my case, 3 days of pretending everything was normal while I systematically dismantled Marcus's entire operation. Rachel Williams moved fast. By the end of the first day, I had frozen my credit, filed police reports for identity theft, and begun the process of disputing every fraudulent account. By the end of the second day, her investigator, Thomas Chen, Dr. Chen's husband, had traced the offshore accounts and documented Marcus's pattern with 2 other women before Jennifer, 2 other women who'd lost everything and disappeared, too ashamed or too afraid to come forward. By the third day, I had enough evidence to put him in prison for 20 years. But I wanted more than that. I wanted him exposed. I wanted everyone who'd ever believed his lies to see exactly who he was. I wanted my mother to know she'd been right. I wanted Amanda to see justice. I wanted every woman he might target in the future to be able to Google his name and find the truth. So I planned a party. "You're sure about this?" Rachel asked me over the phone on the morning of the 4th day. "Once you do this, there's no taking it back. It's going to be public, messy. Everyone's going to know your business." "Good," I said. "Let them know. Let everyone know what he did." Marcus had a work event that Friday night, a client appreciation dinner at a hotel in Hartford, where his company was hosting 60 people. Colleagues, clients, their spouses. He'd been talking about it for weeks, how important it was, how it could lead to new contracts. He'd asked me to come as his wife, to smile and make small talk and play the role of supportive partner, to help him maintain the image of successful family man. I told him I'd be there. What I didn't tell him was that I'd invited my own guests. I arrived at the hotel separately, an hour before the dinner started. Rachel was already there, along with Thomas Chen and 2 uniformed police officers who waited discreetly in the hotel manager's office. Amanda had driven down from Boston that morning. She stood with me in the lobby, and when I saw her in person for the first time, I understood something I hadn't before. She looked like me. Same height, same build, same dark hair. Even our coloring was similar. Marcus had a type, and that type was women who resembled each other enough that he could run the same playbook, the same words, the same promises, and never have to adjust his technique. "You ready?" Amanda asked quietly. "I'm ready." My mother arrived 20 minutes later. I hadn't told her I was coming. I'd simply sent her a text that morning. "Mom, I need you. Hartford Marriott, 7 in the evening. Please come. I'm sorry for everything." She'd responded within seconds. "I'll be there." Now she walked through those lobby doors, and I saw her face, saw the worry and love and relief all mixed together, and I started crying. She crossed the lobby in 5 quick steps and pulled me into her arms, and I sobbed into her shoulder like I was 12 years old again. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "You were right. You were right about everything, and I wouldn't listen, and I'm so sorry." "Shh. No, we're not doing that." She pulled back, held my face in her hands. "You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. That man is a liar and a criminal, and he fooled a lot of people, not just you. But we're going to fix this, okay? We're going to fix this together." I nodded, wiping my face. Then I introduced her to Amanda, and I watched my mother's face as she understood, really understood, how close I'd come to losing everything. "Thank you," my mother said to Amanda, taking her hand. "Thank you for being brave enough to come forward, for waiting all these years for someone to believe you." "I just didn't want anyone else to go through what I did," Amanda said softly. "I didn't want him to win again." At 7:30, the guests started arriving. Marcus texted me, "Where are you? Dinner's starting soon." I texted back, "Running late. Be there in 15 minutes. Start without me." At 7:45, I walked into the banquet room. Marcus was standing near the front talking to a gray-haired man in an expensive suit who I recognized as his boss. He saw me enter and his whole face lit up. He excused himself and crossed the room to me, his hand already reaching for mine. There you are. I was getting worried. He kissed my cheek, whispered in my ear, "You look beautiful." I was wearing the black dress he'd bought me for our anniversary, the pearls my grandmother had left me, my wedding ring. "Sorry I'm late," I said. "Traffic was terrible." "No problem. Come on, I want you to meet some people." He led me through the crowd, introducing me to clients and colleagues, his hand warm on my lower back. This was his element. This was where he shined. Charming, confident, successful. Everyone loved Marcus. Everyone thought he was such a great guy. I smiled and shook hands and made small talk, and I waited. At 8 o'clock, the hotel manager dimmed the lights and invited everyone to take their seats for dinner. Marcus pulled out my chair for me. Always the gentleman. We were seated at a table near the front with his boss and 3 other senior executives. The salad course was served. Marcus was telling a story about a recent project, making everyone at the table laugh. He squeezed my hand under the table, pleased with how well the evening was going. Then the lights came back up, fully bright, and Rachel Williams walked to the front of the room. Marcus's smile faltered. "Good evening, everyone," Rachel said into the microphone that had been set up for the after-dinner speeches. "I apologize for the interruption. My name is Rachel Williams, and I'm an attorney specializing in financial fraud. I'm here tonight because one of your colleagues, Marcus Castellano, has committed multiple felonies, and several of you have a right to know before you do any further business with him." The room went completely silent. Every head turned toward our table. Marcus had gone pale, his hand frozen on his water glass. "What is this?" his boss demanded, standing. "Who authorized you to—" "The hotel management once they understood the situation," Rachel said calmly, "and Mrs. Sofia Castellano, who is Marcus's current victim and who has been kind enough to compile evidence of his crimes." Marcus turned to look at me. The shock on his face was almost comical. Almost. "Sophia, what is she talking about? What's going on?" I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice was steady. "She's talking about how you've been running a con on me for the past 5 years, Marcus. How you've been stealing my money, opening fraudulent accounts in my name, and planning to disappear once you'd taken everything I had. That's insane. You're not making any sense. Honey, are you feeling okay? You've been so stressed lately." "Don't." I held up one hand. "Don't you dare try to gaslight me in front of all these people. I know everything. I found your planning notebook. I found the fake IDs. I found the offshore accounts with my money in them. I found the photographs you've been taking of me. All of it." The room erupted in whispers. Marcus's boss sat back down heavily, staring at Marcus like he'd never seen him before. "I can explain," Marcus said quickly. "This is a misunderstanding. Sophia, we can talk about this at home. We don't need to—" "There's nothing to talk about." I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. "I have copies of everything. Bank statements showing you've stolen over $400,000 from me in the past 6 months. Credit reports showing you've opened 7 credit cards in my name and run up $147,000 in debt. Documents showing you've been using my identity to get medical treatments under someone else's name. And a very detailed notebook where you outlined your 5-phase plan to marry me, isolate me, steal from me, and then disappear." I handed the folder to his boss, who opened it with shaking hands. "You're also not the first," I continued, looking directly at Marcus. "There's Jennifer, who lost her inheritance to you 8 years ago. There's Amanda, who you married and destroyed financially 4 years ago. There are 2 other women before them whose names I don't even know yet. You've been doing this for over a decade." Marcus's face had gone from pale to red. "You've been going through my things? Spying on me? That's a violation of what? Our marriage? Our marriage was a business transaction for you, a long con. I was just the latest mark." I felt my voice getting louder, stronger. Did you even love me? For even 1 second? Or was it all fake? He didn't answer. He just stared at me, and I saw it. The moment the mask dropped, the moment he stopped pretending, his face went cold and calculating, and I finally saw the real Marcus Castellano. "You stupid bitch," he said quietly. "You had no idea how good you had it. I gave you everything. I made you happy, and this is how you repay me." "By exposing a criminal? Yes, that's exactly how I repay you." He lunged at me, actually lunged across the table, reaching for me, and I stumbled backward. His boss grabbed him, and then the 2 police officers Rachel had stationed by the door were there, pulling Marcus away, snapping handcuffs onto his wrists. "Marcus Castellano," one of them said, "you're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. You have the right to remain silent." "This is a mistake," Marcus shouted, struggling against them. "She's lying. She's making this up because she's crazy. Ask anyone. Ask my doctors. She's been unstable for months." "We've already spoken to Dr. Chen," Rachel said calmly. "We've also spoken to Dr. Morrison, the fertility specialist. She's very interested to learn that you've been using her clinic to run fertility fraud schemes. She's cooperating fully with the investigation." They let him out. He was still shouting, still trying to convince everyone it was all a misunderstanding, that I was the crazy one, that he was the victim. But no one was listening anymore. They'd all seen the documents. They'd all heard the evidence. They all knew. The room was in chaos. Marcus's boss was on his phone, probably calling the company's lawyers. Other guests were gathering their things, leaving early. Some were approaching me, apologizing, asking if there was anything they could do. I didn't care about any of them. I pushed through the crowd to where my mother and Amanda were standing near the back of the room. My mother pulled me into her arms again, and Amanda put her hand on my shoulder, and we stood there. Together, 3 women who'd survived Marcus Castellano, while everything he'd built crumbled around us. The next 3 months were brutal. There were depositions and court appearances and endless meetings with lawyers and accountants trying to untangle the financial mess Marcus had created. The story made the local news, "Local man arrested in multi-year fraud scheme," and then the national news when they discovered he'd been doing this for 15 years, targeting at least 8 women that they could verify. Jennifer came forward. So did 2 of the other women Amanda had found. They all pressed charges. They all testified. Marcus tried to make a deal. He tried to claim diminished capacity, childhood trauma, a dozen other excuses. But the evidence was overwhelming. The planning notebook alone, with its cold, calculated phases and timelines, proved premeditation, proved intent. He got 18 years, eligible for parole in 12, but with multiple victims testifying and more. Charges pending in other states, his lawyer said he'd likely serve the full sentence. I was there for the sentencing. I sat in the gallery with Amanda and my mother and Jennifer, and I watched Marcus in his orange jumpsuit try one last time to proclaim his innocence. The judge didn't buy it. No one bought it anymore. "Mr. Castellano," the judge said, "you are a predator. You targeted vulnerable women, exploited their trust, and systematically destroyed their lives for financial gain. The sentence of this court is 18 years in state prison, restitution to be paid to all victims, and a lifetime ban on accessing financial accounts in any capacity upon your release." The gavel came down. It was over. I got most of my money back. Not all of it. Some had been spent, some had been moved to accounts we couldn't trace, but enough. Enough to rebuild, enough to start over. I sold the house. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place in Vermont near my mother. I started seeing a therapist 3 times a week. I joined a support group for fraud victims. And slowly, carefully, I began to heal. 6 months after the sentencing, Amanda and I met for coffee in Boston. She'd started a nonprofit, Survivor's Shield, that helped women escape financial abuse and rebuild their lives. She wanted me to join the board. "I don't know if I'm ready," I told her. "You're ready," she said firmly. "Look at what you did. You stopped him. You exposed him. You saved every woman he would have targeted after you. That's not weakness, Sophia. That's strength." I looked at her. This woman who'd become my friend, my ally, my sister in survival, and I realized she was right. I was strong, stronger than I'd ever known. Marcus had tried to destroy me. He'd almost succeeded, but in the end, I destroyed him instead, and that made all the difference. I called my mother that night. "Hey, Mom." "Hey, sweetheart, how are you?" "I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay." I took a deep breath. I'm joining Amanda's nonprofit. I'm going to help other women the way she helped me. "Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. And Mom, thank you for trying to warn me, for not saying, 'I told you so,' when you had every right to, for just being there when I needed you." "That's what mothers do," she said softly. "We wait, we watch. We're there when you're ready." We talked for an hour, about everything and nothing, about the past and the future, about healing and hope and second chances. When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. Marcus Castellano had taken a lot from me: my trust, my money, 5 years of my life. But he hadn't taken everything. He hadn't taken my strength. He hadn't taken my mother's love. He hadn't taken my ability to fight back. And in the end, that's what mattered. I'd survived him. More than that, I'd won. And I was going to spend the rest of my life making sure other women could do the same.